Wake up, buy here, pay here people. It's a beautiful day. Go grab yourself another cup of joe and say hello to Jim and Michelle Rhodes on the Buy Here, Pay Here morning show. Take it away, you two.
Hey, good
it's
morning.
Friday. Welcome to the morning show. We're late today. I have to own that. I chose the wrong time when I pushed the broadcast.
Yeah.
And it's not an easy fix. Once you push the broadcast, all the channels,
you
just kind of,
cancel stuff out.
It would just confuse people.
Yeah,
and so
had to move a meeting, and then we're on at 11.
Yeah.
11 Central. So
yeah. So
noon.
I was able
Happy
to fit
noon.
I was able to fit in a recording
Mhm.
with a highly experienced dealer. Look forward to bringing some of that education back to our listeners because, we now recorded 2. I've got a few more we got to get squared away, and we'll be away next week. So it might be a little bit before we get a chance to schedule some more. But I'm enjoying doing that. That's fun to ask those questions. Let them pick the questions that they want to answer, and we work through it. But there's a lot of good stuff we've learned already. So
it's just some in-depth interviews with dealers.
Yep.
Where a list of questions is sent, and they get to choose so many of them that they want to answer.
That way they feel a little more prepared and get to kind of stay in their comfort zone. So all good. Yeah, it's been fun.
Less than a week away from Turkey Day.
Yeah, that's right. We got Thanksgiving.
And we're heading back to Utah, and was informed by the kids. It's like, hey, can we just do brunch? It's okay.
Yeah.
So we'll be doing Thanksgiving brunch.
Yeah.
And not sure what's going to happen in the evening.
I don't know. Can we do 2 meals?
We can, because it's not going to be a Thanksgiving dinner at breakfast.
Yeah,
so,
I just don't know. I've never had pumpkin pie for brunch, but I don't see why.
We could do like pumpkin
People
something,
eat pumpkin muffins and stuff for breakfast.
Absolutely.
Why couldn't we?
So
Yeah.
Let's.
Shall we dive into our thing?
I think that's a great idea.
And we won't be here long today, folks. It's just some kind of simple stuff and some kind of new presentation of data. And I'm going to show it to you in a couple different ways. Let's look at this thing first. So this is the raw data, and I'm just going to show it briefly because I want folks to get a feel for what kind of numbers we're talking about. I chose a dealer group that has 500 to 2,000 accounts. And so today is just representative. We can come back with more data from the other groups as well in the coming days. But what I'm really looking at is breaking down what I call portfolio yield. And so, Michelle, if you're a buy here, pay here dealer, your portfolio basically generates cash. You collect payments, and of those payments, it's broken down into principal and interest. And so I split that out. I say, how much principal did we collect? How much interest do we collect? And then the other type of yield that the portfolio would have, this is not counting things like late fees and some other small stuff, and the other thing would be repo recoveries. Like that's something that's generated by the portfolio that obviously drives our bank deposits. And you can sit in here argue all day whether repos are cash or not cash. In reality, we're just saying it's something that is generated by the portfolio. It's equivalent to cash because we put a value on it that should be equivalent to its cash value. So that's what we're looking at. But I also, the reason I wanted to share this, and we're going to go over and look at percentages instead. But I wanted people to see that the data we're working from is dealers who have collected almost 12 million, 9.5 million total, right? They've collected some of them. Let's look at the interest line.
Was the 34 and the largest was 12.5.
Yeah. And the smallest in terms of interest earnings, because they might not be the smallest dealer, they might have lower interest rates. So this is part of why we look at these kind of things. The dealer with the lowest number in terms of interest yield was just over 1.0 million, 1.02. So that's significant. That's 10 months worth of interest collected, right? And so I just kind of want folks to see that part first and understand that's the kind of data pool that we're looking at. But when we look at it on percentage basis, I put it in a graph. And so when you look at it on a percentage basis, let's take our time and talk through this and make sure that first line is the group average. So you can see that, and I chose to stack it up this way. If you think of it in my mind, the first thing we collect is interest. Most of our dealers that are buy here, pay here, virtually all of them are simple interest. So that means if I'm financing the car to you, Michelle, when you make a payment, I first collect interest. So if I think of my interest first, then that's the green line there. And you can see that the dealers averaged across 10 months and millions of dollars. Those dealers averaged collecting 29.1% of all the money they collected. 29.1% is interest.
Okay.
And 56.1% is principal. And then that last 14.8% is in repo recoveries.
Okay.
So now if you look at, let's just study the green line for a minute, and you can see kind of how that varies by, even though these dealers are all good size, well-established dealers, you can see the deviation in their numbers. So you've got the lowest in terms of interest earnings or interest collected as a percentage was 19.9%.
Okay.
See that?
Yeah, but they also collected the most. Well, no, they didn't collect the most principal.
Yeah, true. Yeah, so this is why I think it's important to kind of visualize this data and begin to understand, well, why are their businesses so different, right? They're all up there with, 800 account, 1,000 account portfolios, and they're all financing, the same kind of customer. Why so different?
So I have a couple of questions, unless you.
And let's see if I can answer them. Okay. It'll be fun.
So, when you're looking at, it's obviously indicative of different business models. And so I'm like looking at these ones that have really high principal collected and lower interest collected. Does that have anything to do with their APR?
Yes. If I understand, you said the relationship of how much principal they collected versus interest collected. Yeah, it's going to be a function of APR.
So would someone that's collecting that much more principal than interest probably has a lower APR?
Likely. Okay. It could also be, there's some other factors to consider in there. But I would say that, primarily you're talking about the rate of interest. Keep in mind, maturity of the portfolio would also be a factor, because again, in simple interest, the newer the contracts are, the more interest we would be collecting. Okay. Right. So there's always, like I said, there's no easy answers here. And that's what part of what makes our business a little bit complex. But I would say part of the reason I chose this particular group for this data presentation was they're established. These are people who do substantial volume, right? And they're pretty much have mature portfolios. Yeah. And you've got dealers in there selling, 80 to 100 a month. Yeah. So there's always some fresh contracts in the deal, but certainly overall, I think what it helps us to look at is, how does it break down? And I think this can really be an interesting thing for us to, within our groups and our V8 groups and on our conversations, it helps people to start to look at. I enjoy just presenting the data for people and let them talk about it and decide for themselves what the meaning
whether or not it holds a lot of value. It's interesting to see the, and it starts to make me think of a lot of questions. Like dealer 8 has a really high principal collected, average, just right on the average of interest collected, and very, very low repo. Does that mean that they don't have a lot that they're repoing?
It does, or it doesn't, or it could mean most of our dealers in this group are consistent in the way that they value repos. You put a book value on it. So it's also a reflection of business model. Some of these dealers, in fact, one of our members in a meeting just last night said, our repo rate is low percentage wise because we're doing a high ACV car, high mileage, low ACV car. And often when we repo, there's not much left to finance.
The car. Yeah.
And so that's again, a reflection of business model. And will that dealer, make an adjustment to their approach based on what they now see from other members of these groups? And so it starts to really kind of beg the question.
There's a lot more questions to ask in there.
Yeah. And I think, we talked about it. For those not seeing the screen, be sure to find us on YouTube. If you're listening on audio, another one to find on YouTube so you can see these visuals that we're presenting. But the lowest dealer in the group, just going back to this interest section in green, the lowest dealer was 19.9% of all the money that they've collected in 10 months.
Less than 20%.
Less than 20% was interest. But the highest is more than double. They're 41.9% of what they have collected is interest.
Yeah.
So they're charging a higher interest.
That's that would be what my assumption would be from that, is that it's a higher interest contract.
Well, let me add another assumption to that. So think about you're the lender. So you're the lender, and this dealer's collecting 41.9% interest, which helps their profitability and probably can help. Certainly, it all goes in the bank. But you can see why this dealer has also collected the lowest principal in the group, which suggests that their portfolio they're holding more value in their portfolio, at least principal. If you talk to somebody who's got a $10 million portfolio, that's usually principal.
So you're saying that if they were to stop selling tomorrow, they would have a longer, if they're holding more in there, then they would have a longer stream.
Yeah, and what we're not looking at here is the gross charge-off numbers. We're only looking at the money coming in.
Yeah.
The charge-off obviously just gets written off, and it's not cash, so it's not showing up here. But one could conclude that if we're paying a lot more interest and we're paying less principal in this example, then it stands to reason we're going to be carrying more principal in our portfolio, and any given customer would have a higher potential principal balance, which means our charge-offs would be higher, right? When we write off an account because customer quit paying,
the dollar amount of a charge-off would be higher.
Exactly.
Yes.
So
that goes the same direction.
Yeah, it's like it's part of what you can expect to see. So I think it's an interesting thing to be able to analyze, and it's part of why I tell our members, and you've seen me do it plenty of times. A lot of times when I'm up before you are, it's in the mornings and it's quiet in the house, I end up spending some time digging into this kind of stuff because I'm just always looking for ways to be able to present the data in a way that'll help people see it visually. Because and a lot of that's for me as an analyst to be able to visualize and see kind of what the movement is in the numbers, and obviously it can help our members in these V8 groups and our clients as well when we do this kind of thing. But I think that's all I was trying to do today was again show a new way to think about of the money that we yield. Where's it coming from?
Yeah. And so takeaways. What takeaways can a dealer, looking and listening, take from the conversation? My first thing is be aware of what buckets are being filled.
Yeah.
And what buckets other people have being filled, and whether it gives you an opportunity to contrast and compare. Right. And have a conversation about how are you doing this differently than me. Well,
so some of the takeaways for me would be, let's take one. Business models vary.
Yes.
Okay. Here's just 8 dealers represented. This is actual data, January through October 2025. Business models vary. Yield varies. Okay. Does it? Go ahead. Do you have a question or you?
It's a statement. It's like, when you sit around a lunch table at a conference and everyone's talking about how well, there is so much more involved in the whys.
Oh, sure.
And so, I can see a younger dealer coming in and going, well, they're getting this. Why am I not getting this? Yeah. It's like, it must be. And it's like, it's these kind of like variations that create deep conversations around business model.
Yeah. And why we choose to do it the way we do it. And look, the reality is they can all be right for that particular dealer. The strategies vary, access to capital varies. I mean, there can, time in business and your own financial standing might be a factor here. But I would just say that what this slide says is that business models vary, and not any one of them necessarily is better than the other. It might be better for that dealer. It might not be. Like, this is an opportunity for them to learn from one another. The other thing I think you could see from this is you just lean on the group average and go back and look at your own numbers, because this is a number that dealers should be able to run on a napkin. You can run this on a napkin at your desk right now. Run January through October. Look at your interest collected, add that to your your principal collected, add that to your repos recovered, and now you can just run the same math and ask yourself how your own numbers compare to this group average. For those, again, not seeing the screen, I'll run through those numbers again. The repo recovery is coming out to 14.8% on average of all money yielded by the portfolio. The principal collected is 56.1, and the interest collected is 29.1. So those would be your key takeaway. Go back and look at that. It's not that one is necessarily better than the other in this slide. That wasn't what I was trying to present today, as much as it is look at your own numbers and see how yours might be different. And then obviously, final takeaway is join a V8 group so you can be part of these conversations.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the big part is dealers that are very seasoned kind of understand this at a just because that's just from listening and watching. Younger dealers need to understand, and this one of the reasons why I think this is helpful is to understand that there are so many nuances. And so when someone says this is what you should, or this is the why, or whatever, it's like there are so many other moving pieces, and this is how we set up our loan structures. All of that is not regulated like a doctor couldn't come in and just be as so many different moving pieces and parts like people in our industry.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Setting up a shingle, a lawyer couldn't do it. And so in our industry, it is so challenging to be able to look at a number, whether you're in a V8 group or a 20 group or just sitting around a conference lunch table. There are so many nuances in this business that to listen to someone who's successful and have them say, no, this is what you should do without understanding all of the nuances is they're probably just preaching their model.
And people do get attached to their model, but it's like, if it works for you, it works for you. It's just that it's important to remember that you use nuances, and sometimes it's actual limitations. Like I can't do what you're doing because I don't have access to that kind of capital. So I can,
or there
if I
might
did
be different
that,
rules in your state.
Whatever the limitations might be, but often it's capital restricted. It's like I can't, if I did that, I could only afford to sell 12 cars a year, or I'm exaggerating, but it's like, the idea is
we
like,
all know capital is the thing.
We need access to capital to do some of these, to execute some of these models, right?
And there's capital squirrel.
Okay.
Just saw some news reports. Is there more you want to talk about?
No, I'm good there.
Okay. One of our founding sponsors, LHPH Capital, who now is in Buy Here, Pay Here Capital as well. So they service both, have now joined Buy Here, Pay Here United.
Right.
And I sent off an email to EO and Tim and just was like, congratulations. This is a really, really great move for the industry, great move for them. So what they're going to be doing as part of this, it's Steve Levine and his folks.
Compliance Unleashed.
Compliance Unleashed is now part of Buy Here, Pay Here United. So the LHPH Summit is now part of Buy Here, Pay Here United.
Wonderful.
So for one ticket price, you're getting access to all of the different things. So I just, hats off, great move. Really happy for them and for the industry, for the dealers that go, because they're gonna really be able to learn some stats and all of that from someone who understands both models deeply.
And let me just mention, LHPH Capital is the original founding sponsor of White Hat Way, which you can look at their website and see. That means they stand for trust and transparency and leadership.
People there. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Really great team.
Very ethical folks to deal with, and just a great team of people.
They picked up Jimmy Rambo too, who is like one of my favorites from going to conferences when I first started, especially. Just a really, really good guy.
Well, they're just all good people over there. So if you don't know LHPH Capital and you're going to be at the BHPH
do
Summit,
some research.
Get out there and
reach out to us, and we can get you an introduction.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We know where to find them.
We know where to find them.
Yeah.
All righty. Anything else?
No, that's it. Let's wrap up.
Okay. Well, again, it is Friday. And so the weekend before Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
So there are those. I think most of us will have like lists of things, especially if you're hosting. It's like, honey, we need to get all of the tables out. We need to get the
Right.
And I've got friends around here that it's like, I'm not hosting. We're flying out on Monday, so have me come over and help because there's just a lot of activity this weekend. And so everybody enjoy the fall colors, enjoy some football, enjoy a big pot of chili, whatever, as you're getting ready.
And maybe collect a few car payments.
Maybe collect a few car payments.
Yeah.
That too. I mean,
Right.
it does make the world go round.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thanks again so much for joining, and we will see you on Wednesday. All right. Have a good day.